He inherited this old car, and his brothers humiliated him, but they didn't know this would happen. "I could accompany you," Giulio said every day. But his older brothers answered things like, "Hey, get out of here, warm. You're an idiot who's good for nothing and better stay and take care of that old man. That's why you're the youngest son." These are some of the things they told him every time he has to go out and enjoy himself with them. Giulio's older brother enjoyed his life very well. His father had dedicated himself to the countryside, agriculture and livestock, very well-paid professions in that country. He had also dedicated himself to having much more land and being an old man. When he found out about the terrible illness of his wife, he decided to write the will, which would allow his children to enjoy a better quality of life thanks to the fruit of the efforts of all his life. The lawyer began to write down what the old couple said. "For Terry, my eldest son, we will leave him the cabin that is located on the prairie. That property is well valued since it's on the top, and there he could continue with the crops and harvest of the sweet oranges, thanks to height. In this way, he'll have many privileges and few joys. For Gonzalo, our second son, we'll give him the land near the mountain where the hotel we built is located, because in winter the snow covers everything and hundreds of tourists admit thousands of reservations. And in the summer, even more people come to enjoy the countryside and where children can live in an exquisite space surrounded by vegetation and animals. We will offer our third son, Felix, the house where we live now, whereas all the cattle, and with all that he'll be able to live a totally full life. But you've forgotten our son." Giulio mentioned the oldest mother, to which her husband replied, "For my kindest and dearest son. We will leave as an inheritance the car that I bought at the auction before we had our boys, my faithful vehicle that will accompany me until the rest of my days. In addition, he is a hobbyist mechanic." "Seriously, will you leave that car for him alone?" his wife replied, and the man just winked at her, and his wife smiled something very strange for the lawyer. Seriously, they will only leave an old car to their youngest son, and who is supposedly the most faithful and loyal. They just smiled. The lawyer thought it was a joke, but when he gave up the paper, he did not understand why. As time passed, not only his wife left, but also the father of these boys, who said goodbye to his 4 children with a smile and saying that he lived a happy and full life, and that now he would be reunited with his wife, the love of his life. The older children did not cry or feel anything because they already wanted to enjoy their entire inheritance. But Giulio, the boy, cried and did not eat for several days because he was very close to his father. He changed his diapers and even told his brothers that it was very difficult for him to live in that house full of memories. His brothers were going to answer this, but suddenly the lawyer arrived and shouted everything their parents had left them. Everyone was happy for the rich inheritance they received, but when they heard what Giulio received, they cried. They cried from laughter. "Seriously, our parents left you alone with that piece of trash, and you were supposed to be the best son," they said, laughing out loud. But Giulio didn't care. "No, since you don't want to be in this house of the memories, I'm asking you to do your thing and get the hell out of here, since you're on my property," Felix said. Giulio went to get his things, and before the lawyer's eyes, he left the house. As his brothers jumped up and down with happiness, the lawyer hurried up to him and said, "When your parents meant to dictate the will, I couldn't believe that they had left you that vehicle. Only that vehicle. I thought it was a joke because the compliments to you were the best. I still don't understand why, but they were smiling. I recommend you don't leave empty-handed. Go to the garage, take that vehicle, and drive it. You might be in for a big surprise," the man told him. "Also, your father left you this envelope with money. There's exactly $10,000 in it. Use it to repair the vehicle and survive if you repair it. And he asked me to give you this letter and open it." Only after repairing it, Giulio thanked him for his advice and went to the old shed, and when he tried to start the car, he couldn't. Well, it was without a battery after so many years without using it. Then he took off the brake and started to push it. His brothers at the window burst out laughing. Giulio arrived at a little house that he rented, and in the garage he began to repair that vehicle. He thought $10,000 was too much to fix such an old car, but he was very surprised to learn that the pieces were very expensive. He took a long time to rebuild them, and above all, almost all the $10,000 went in that vehicle. He hardly had enough to eat, and he couldn't believe that he had spent so much money on an old car. So once he was like with his new original parts, he decided to open that letter for him and read it. And in these he said the following: "Hello, son. I just wanted to ask you a couple of things. The first is I want you to take the car to the used car shop and ask them how much they can offer you for that car, and then go back and continue reading." Giulio left, and was surprised that for that old car he was offered only $5,000. This disappointed Giulio a lot because he no longer had enough to live on and he wanted to go to university. Since he had little left to finish his finance degree, he returned home and then read that he was being ordered to do the same thing, but this time go to a luxury car auction downtown. This was very strange, Giulio thought, but he listened to his father and signed up for that auction. He didn't even know what make and model the car was, but an appraiser helped him with it. Giulio was nervous about what would happen. There were well-dressed millionaires there, but when it was his car's turn, the auctioneer said 1940 Bugatti 57 Atlantic. At that moment, everyone stood up as if surprised. Giulio didn't understand anything. He thought they were going to make fun of him. But when the auctioneer mentions the starting price, Giulio wept with joy. He started the auction with $3 million. Who offers more? A man yelled $4 million. Another millionaire yelled, I offer $5 million. I 7. I offer 9. Finally, one of the country's well-known tycoons stood up and said, I offer $11 million. Yes, $11 million for that towering classic. Congratulations, exclaimed the auctioneer. Well, this car only exists in 2 hemispheres of the world, and you'll be the owner of one. Julie opened the letter to continue reading and said, Son, I wanted you to know that in the right place you are valued, but only in the right way. Don't judge people for what they have. Get to know people and you will see that they will appreciate you more for what you have and what you are. If you're not valued, don't be angry. It means you're in the wrong place and with the wrong people. Those who know your value are the ones who appreciate you and never stay in a place where no one values you for who you are. Giulio received much more money, but the great lesson learned was an act of love from his parents. Today his brothers know the story and cannot believe how Giulio was able to be so successful. He's married. He's a millionaire because he multiplied everything he earned and has 2 beautiful daughters. There are so many words to describe how we feel about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, and how we act toward ourselves. It's understandable if they all start to blend together for you. However, they are indeed different concepts with unique meanings, findings, and purposes. Self-worth and self-value are 2 related terms that are used often interchangeably. Having a sense of self-worth means that you value yourself, and having a sense of self-value means that you're worthy. The differences between the 2 are minimal enough that both terms can be used to describe the same general concept. Self-worth is defined by Merriam-Webster as a feeling that you are a good person who deserves to be treated with respect. On the other hand, self-value is more behavioral than emotional, more about how you act toward what you value, including yourself, than how you feel about yourself compared to others. Friends, we've reached the end of this story. Tell us what you thought about this story.